Are we on? Am I in focus? What about now? What about now? What about now? All right, everybody. This is a video that's sort of in response to a lot of things I've been seeing on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, where folks are wondering what happens if the beginning of your year does not go as planned. And so I wanted to talk about that because I've had the beginning of my year not go as planned for almost every year that I've been teaching. At some point at the end of last year or during the summer, you had this idea of what you thought the beginning of your year was supposed to look like, right? And then you got back to school and there were PD meetings and there's back to school shopping with your kids and the printers went down and there's not enough desks in your room, or the supplies that you ordered didn't come in, or you thought your shopping budget was gonna look like Lakeshore Learning, but then it turns out it looks like Dollar Tree. You don't own the tools to do that project that you thought. You don't have that sweet Cricut or the laminator that you saw somebody on Instagram had, and now you just can't do that idea that you wanted to do. Added on to all of that stuff, maybe you thought about that professor in college that stressed the beginning of the year, or you read books like Harry Wong's First Day of School book. These just add the pressure on that the beginning of the year is everything, and if you don't get it right, your year is over. It's not over. And so I just wanted to take a moment and talk to those of you that are feeling like the beginning of the year is the end of the world, because it's not. I'm gonna give you some very real tips on how you can change the beginning of your year into the year that you wanted to have. The first thing you don't wanna do is just look at what's going wrong and compare that to everything that's on social media, right? You already know this, but Instagram and Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, everything can look like it's perfect, but then you look at your room and you think it's not as cute, or you don't have as much space, or things aren't going as great as you had planned for them to go. And then what we end up doing is like beating ourselves up because it doesn't look like it compares to everyone else's. Remember, social media is everyone else's highlight reel. Most teachers aren't putting stuff out there that's like not going to be on their highlight reel. And for varying reasons, right? Like I wish, should I talk about this real quick? All right, so I have to ask the not so secret wife. I wish that I legitimately could show a real struggle that I'm having in my classroom. A student that either sleeps all the time, or someone that acts out, someone that has a hard time paying attention, and then how I walk through or how I deal with that situation and how I win sometimes, and sometimes no one wins. But I can't do that because it's not just about me, it's about the students, and so I can't put that kind of information out there. So just remember, social media equals highlight reel. Also, it's important to note that the beginning of your year is never going to be perfect. It can be really great, or it can start off better than it did before, but it's never gonna be perfect. Something is always not going to work out. And so that's not really being pessimistic. I think it's being realistic, going into it with a sense of like, all right, maybe everything doesn't work out exactly how I planned, but how can I make it the best that it can possibly be? The second thing is that you don't wanna do is get yourself in a panic. Take a step back, take a deep breath, and realize it can all still work itself out.
I want you to say, I'm angry. It's okay. I'll process my anger. I love myself. Woozah.
Worked for 2 hours on that seating chart, and then you realize that thing's trash. Unruly students or bad student behavior that you're not really sure how to deal with right away. Your icebreaker didn't break any ice. You're super excited about the beginning of the year, but no one else is excited about the beginning of the year. This is stuff that happens to everyone. I could give 100 examples on what could go wrong. You already know that. Let's talk about how we can make some of these things go right. One, be consistent but flexible. We always hear people talking about online or in school about how teachers need to be consistency, how consistency is the key to classroom management. And I think that's true, but I think if we're not flexible, the whole thing's gonna end up breaking. So let me break that down for you and make it real. One, if you decide that something is a non-negotiable, keep it as a non-negotiable. And what that looks like is, if you think that shaking hands every single day in the front of your classroom as the students are walking in the door, that's important to you, keep doing it. It's a non-negotiable. If you think that being late equals points off, keep it that way. It's a non-negotiable. If you think that everyone in class needs to wait their turn to speak, whether that's another student is speaking right now or you're speaking right now, keep it there. It's a non-negotiable. I could give tons of different examples to this because, to be honest, what's important to you might not be important to someone else. And that's fine, as long as there's consistency in your classroom. I mean, I shake hands at my door every day, but I don't expect everyone else to do that. Whatever works for you is what's gonna work for you. Whatever's important to you is gonna be what's important to you. Now, what being flexible means is that maybe the manner in which you're teaching or the manner in which the students are learning could change, because it's not gonna, what worked last year might not work this year. And so maybe last year, everyone working in groups worked really well. It was like the chemistry of the class worked that way, and students were finding success in working in groups. But this year you're realizing groups are a nightmare and no one's getting along. No amount of planning is going to make that work better, and you realize that the students might work really well working in pairs or by themselves, and that is what's going to help them to find success. At the end of the day, the students finding success is the only thing that matters. Not whether or not your plan worked or not, but are the students finding success within your plan. Maybe last year you started off and you were super strict and you felt that's what the kids needed, was for you to put your foot down, for you to be a little more serious in class, and that's what was gonna help kids find success, because those were the kids you were teaching last year. That's what they needed.
I am your substitute, Mr. Nostrum. But that might as well say no nonsense, because I do not play.
But this year you're realizing that's coming off as a little bit overbearing, that the students don't need that as much structure or be so hard and fast on everything, and that there's a little bit more room for flexibility and for kids to be able to move around or for them to be able to learn in different ways. And that's all right. Maybe take your foot off the brake a little bit and then just like kind of see what happens with that. It's okay to change those things up. It doesn't mean anyone's gonna take advantage of you. It just means that you're being kid-centered and not just centered on what you want to have happen. Número dos, take time to get to know your students. Part of what makes my classroom great is my getting to know students. And I realize that this isn't like important for everyone on the level that it is for other people, and that's fine. Teaching is a lot like those old choose your own adventure books. Like, we figure out what fits our personalities and what fits our style. But for me, reaching out and getting to know students is really, really important in my classroom. But I can't know students on the first day of school, right? Some of these guys I had last year, and some of my students that I'm getting this year, I've never seen them in my life. And so I don't know who I'm going to get or who they're going to become during the year. Because we all know that sometimes we get that 1 to 3 day grace period in the beginning of the year when everyone's quiet and meek and nothing bad happens, and then all of a sudden, bam, everyone's nuts and like they've made a friend and now it's crazy town in your room. I think the benefit for me in building relationships with students is, 1, I get to learn how they learn. 2, I get to learn what kind of struggles that they're dealing with or what's going on outside of school that might be affecting them on the inside of school. I might learn where the best place is for them to sit. Maybe they have to move around the room a little bit before I realize that a standing desk in the back of the room is way better than them sitting on the side of the room surrounded by people. Maybe, that was convenient. My notes got a little messed up. I look like my students on the second week of school right now. What was that homework assignment, Mr. Reynolds? Yeah, I got it right here. Right here it is. All right, so all that to say, doing all of that takes time. You have to sit down with students. You have to get to know them. Cops are going by. Life in the city. There it is. Here's 2 ways that I get to know my students in the beginning of the year using activities that I have found to be really beneficial. Within the first few days of school, my students get an assignment, and that assignment is to write a ghost story that has never existed before, or at least has never been put on paper before. So maybe it was, you heard it around your neighborhood, there's a haunted house in your neighborhood, or your cousin told you this story, or maybe it could just be something that you made up from your own imagination. You come in with a 1-page long ghost story. Then what I have the students do is they're given the option to read it in front of the class or to ask someone else to read it in front of the class. And this is going to tell me several things. 1, did you complete the assignment? 2, did you cheat and steal it from somewhere like a movie that you thought Reynolds didn't know because he's old and you were wrong, because Reynolds knows everything. At least that's what I need them to believe. What does your penmanship look like? What do you think one page is? Do you think one page is a little tiny sliver of writing in the middle of your paper like it's a Home Depot receipt? Or does it actually look like margin to margin, top to bottom, full page? Did you go above and beyond the parameters of the assignment? Did you want to read in front of everyone else? Are you terrified to read in front of everyone else? Did you want to read everyone's story in front of everyone else? All of these things inform me of the students that I have in front of me and who they are when I'm meeting them at the beginning of the year. The second thing that I do is when we start reading the Odyssey, which is the first novel of the year for the freshmen, we do something called the life map. And what I ask the students to do is to map out their life from the time they were born until now, and then what 10 moments made them into the individual that they are now. Your mind will be blown when you realize the things that kids are willing to share with you. What they're excited about, what they're afraid of, what happened in their life that hurt their feelings, a situation happened at their old school that made it really hard to go there. All of this information is really just telling you more about who the students are. Even the kids that lie about their lives. You know, the 2'3" freshman that says that he won like the game-winning shot in basketball when you know all the other dudes on his team were like 6 feet tall. Probably didn't happen. But what is that saying about you on a deeper level? All of these things just inform the teacher about who the kids are that they're teaching, and then you can teach them to who they are and not the kids you want them to be or the kids you thought they were going to be. Numero 3, start the year off with a learning mindset, right? Don't go in thinking you know everything. Once you do that, you're more rigid and you're gonna break instead of being flexible like we talked about before. A lot of teachers confuse being confident with being hard-headed. And so you think that you're just going in confident and strong and you're ready to go, but really you realize you're just being kind of bullish and hard-headed and inflexible. And that's gonna work against you. Confidence is awesome. Confidence is what gives you the strength to go in and try something new, to admit that you're wrong, to take a step back and say, maybe I had this all wrong in the beginning. Being bullheaded is just barreling forward with your material and with your lesson, even though it sucks and the students don't like it. And you know maybe that it's wrong, but you think, nope, gotta keep going, gotta keep going, gotta keep going. It's kind of like a fly hitting against the glass over and over and over again. And you're just like, dude, the door is 2 inches to your right. Sometimes having that confidence to pivot is what's gonna help us get out of a situation. An example from my own life is that when I first started teaching, I learned that the best way to teach vocabulary was that every Monday, the students would get the words, and every Friday, they would have a test. And the in-between time would look something like Monday, they would get no cards, the word goes on one side, definition goes on the back side of that. They would study them throughout the week, and we would do exercises throughout the week in class to help them to do the best that they could. And now I'm realizing that, you know, new technology like vocabulary or Quizlet really have helped a number of my students that old way did not benefit at all. And that was tricky for me because you know what? The longer we're teachers, the more kind of lessons we refine and we tweak and they get really, really good, or you don't have to spend your whole weekend coming up with a new lesson plan because you have it on lock. But what happens after 10 or 20 years sometimes is that you realize that this class, they're not the same kids that I taught 10 years ago. There's new technology out there. There are new things going on that might benefit my kids more. So for new teachers, I think one way that you can remain flexible and that you can go into the new school year with a learning sort of mindset is that find a mentor. Go into school and maybe that's someone else that teaches at your school that's really great. Maybe it's a teacher you previously had that you can reach out to that when you were in 4th grade or you were in high school, you think they can benefit your practice, reach out to them and ask. If those teachers don't exist, look online. You can find teacher blogs, you can find stuff on YouTube, or maybe that Instagram account that you love so much, reach out to that teacher, send them a DM and ask them if they would be willing to answer some of your questions. If you need resources, if you're not sure who to reach out to because of your subject matter or your grade level or where you teach, just leave it in the comment section below and I'll do my best to get back to you and tell you what online resources or teachers you could reach out to help you be your best as well. I could go on and on about this. There are like 25 more things just off the top of my head that I think I could give you as little pieces of advice or tips or examples. But to be honest, I think that these few, if you do them, will severely affect your school year. Look, if there's something that I didn't get to and you you think that it's really crucial to help you succeed this year, do me a favor and send me an email. Sometimes in the comments, I know it can be weird to like leave super personal stuff for some people, but if you send me an email, I'll do my best to get back to you in a timely manner and help you out. Everyone, I want you to have the greatest school year ever. Anything that I can do to help that happen, please reach out to me. If it's ideas for videos, if there are questions that you need answered, if there are resources that you're not sure where to find them from, please hit me up. I'll do my best to get back to you. And I hope this helped, everybody. Thanks. I hope you have the best school year ever. Peace.